Hey guys, Clumsy here. Welcome back to Microsoft Flight Simulator. And welcome back to the TBM 930. My goodness, I missed this plane. We are back on this plane because the guys, the working title guys, have been at it again. They've been working hard and now they've released a new G3000 mod. So we'll go and test it out today. We'll check out the different features that it includes and we will see how different it is compared to the default G3000. Now, all of the other modes... One sec, huh? Wait a minute. I'm in a different thing here. Let me just adjust my settings. Okay, I'm back with you now. I'll adjust that later. Right, runway is clear. Let's do our takeoff here. Should be a pretty long runway. So all the mods from my TBM, the ones that I've been using before, are still here. All the fixes, the audio alerts and everything. And so far it seems like everything is working fine. The ITT adjustments, torque adjustments. The only thing that seems to be conflicting is the touchscreen controls, unfortunately. Oh, don't over torque the engine. There you go. I am a bit rusty with the TBM. It's been a while since I flew it, so I am not familiar with the throttle controls anymore. 90 knots rotation speed. Pull up. Beautiful. This plane just handles so well. Positive rate gear up. Pitch for 115 knots. 115 knots, flaps up, yaw damper on. You might see some things that are interesting in the PFD already, and we'll go through those bit by bit. But just let me stabilize here a bit, guys, okay? Let's go into a 140 flight level change. Alright, turning right to intercept that flight plan, the magenta line. Looks good here. Keep everything intact. Now we don't have any clouds anywhere, so I think it should be safe to turn off the inertial separator. We'll just keep a close eye on our torque there, which will rise, and pull back on the throttle as it reaches close to 100. Are you seeing that in the MFD, that cyan colored banana shape arc? I'm loving that. That is my favorite feature at the moment here in this G3000 mod. Right. So let's climb higher. You'll see the banana move. You might have an idea what that is doing now. So let's go up to 10,000 feet. Let me go to nav mode, flight level change. That looks good. Autopilot, turn that on. Good. Yeah, still a bit fidgety with autopilot controls, but it will adjust itself, hopefully. And now it's porpoising. Dolphin dance is still an issue, unfortunately. You can see with the flight level change, it is very much a normal thing at the moment. So let's go to VS. Just maybe go 2,000 feet per minute. Maybe we can climb higher. 2,500 should work. Line the heading bug. There we go. Alright, so what things are new? Oh, so many new things, so many cool things. Let me see, something seems to have gone. So let's start with the PFD. What is new with the PFD? Well, now you can turn the synthetic vision on or off. So if you go to, let me go back here. This is the main screen. If you go to, well, PFD map settings, you can turn off the on or off the map. I personally don't like the map there, so I always keep it off. In the PFD settings, if you go back to the main screen, let's continue our climb here. Let's go up to 31,000 feet, flight level 310, why not? That's the ceiling for this plane. Good. So if we go to PFD settings, attitude overlays, you see synthetic terrain here. You can turn that on or off. I personally always like having synthetic vision, so I just keep that on, and you can see that we have the ball, the flight path vector, which indicates where the plane is headed given all the different factors. Like if there's a crosswind, then this flight path vector would be more to the left or right. If you are pitching too much, your angle of attack is not optimal, then that will be a bit different from where the plane is pointing at and where it's actually going. So that is very helpful, especially for crosswind situations. I love that feature. But that's my number 2 feature. My number 1 feature is still in the MFD. But let me see. Before we jump there, other PFD settings, let's go back. Everything else is the same, except for this one. If you go to other PFD settings, you now have an option finally to switch between inches of mercury or hectopascals for the altimeter QNH setting. Yeah, and if you're flying in Europe or somewhere outside the US, then this is most likely what you'll choose. But since we're currently in the US, I'll pick that for now. Good. Right. I think that does it for the PFD. Let's jump into the MFD. Now, as I mentioned, there is a conflict right now with the touchscreen controls mod. So you get a bit of mishmash of both mods conflicting with each other. Like some of the icons are from the touchscreen controls mod and some of them are from the G3000 mod, which is unfortunate. Zoom out here, there you go. That will help a lot. So let's go to the MFD on this page. And where do we start? Well, one thing that I wanted to highlight, we finally have, if you go to aircraft systems here, lighting config. Yes, it is what you imagine. You can now change the brightness. You can even use the mouse here. You can drag this slider on and off depending on the lighting in the actual touchscreen panel. Like before, we had that workaround. We had the mod. Oh, we have the Dolphin dance again. We had a workaround that a modder made the brightness adjustable using the panel knob here. And that was a nice workaround, but it's not quite realistic. It's not really how it works. Let's go shallower here, 1,500 feet per minute. Ideally, yeah, in the G3000, the lighting is actually here in the panel, and now it is implemented. So that's pretty cool. The majority of the changes with the G3000 has to involve with the map settings though. This is where it really shines. You can now change the orientation, as you guys might have noticed. North up is the default. North is always on the top. So it's north, east, west, south. Or you can choose heading up, which would always face. The top is always where your plane is facing. Or track up, which is my favorite, which is quite similar to heading up, but this is different depending on the winds. Like if you have crosswind, then those two will be quite different. Track up is always to the top, always up where your plane is going. Doesn't matter where your plane is facing, it puts at the top where your plane is going, if that makes any sense. Okay. And then we have other fancy stuff here like map detail. Map sync, I'm not sure what's for. Maybe it's synchronizing with the map and the PFD, but I'm not really using that. Map detail is something pretty cool as well. If you want to declutter, it actually works now. Like you just want the flight path in there, the magenta line, not anything else. You can easily hide all of those. Or if you want to be a bit more meticulous about it, you can actually go to aviation. So let's go back to the main MFD screen, press MFD, map settings, and then here, aviation. That would allow you to choose the different blobs, objects in the map. See, turn off airports, VORs, intersections, NDBs. So you can choose that, or just pick a simple declutter like so. Just keep everything there for now, right? There's also the option now for changing the background. You have the off Not really a fan of this, although I guess it makes it more clear, more readable in terms of the flight plan. You can make it relative, which is similar, although it's not reflect right now, but this would change to green, yellow, or red depending if you have I switch to standard. Oh, that actually works now. Did they change that as well? Before, when you click barrow, it would go and choose the current, the local altimeter, but now when you push it, it goes to the standard altimeter, which is what it should do. Like you see there, push for standard barrow setting. Nice. That might be part of the mod as well, G3000 mod. Not 100% sure. Anyway, so the relative terrain would change to green, yellow, or red if you are at risk of hitting an obstacle. Like if there are mountains, you can see the mountain peaks turn red if you're going to hit them. Or if it's like this, then you're not at risk of hitting anything. So that's very helpful when you're traversing through mountainous routes and flying low. Or absolute, which is quite nice. So I'll keep it this way. Alright. And then my favorite, I know I've been skirting around it. Oh, there's actually like cities display now. That wasn't there before. Like if you're wanting to go sightseeing, if you want to trace some roads, the roads are a bit bugged, I think. Sometimes they display, sometimes not. So now you can show the cities. But my favorite, my absolute favorite, that Boeing Banana, I think some call it, because I think it originated with Boeing. It's the range to altitude. So it's in the other section, range to altitude, right there. And yes, I've been delaying it for the longest time, but now we're here. But let me lower that climb and get a bit more. Would have chosen FLC here if it were not Dolphin dancing. But that basically shows when you will be arriving at your selected altitude. So I selected 31,000, right? Flight level 310. And we're currently climbing. So given our current trajectory, our speed, our climb rate, when would we reach flight level 310? That would adjust there. And this actually highlights the Dolphin dance, because if your plane is pitching up and down, you're changing your climb rate. And so that banana will also be pitching, moving up and down. And so for example, if I want to stop my climb at 270, if I change my altitude selected, you'll see the range there. The arc also change. And you can imagine the usefulness of this. Like I remember flying in VATSIM the other day, and the controller told me to cross a waypoint at a certain altitude, like cross Tuxedo at 13,000. And normally, if all the avionics were working, that would have been as simple as going here to your flight plan, looking for the Tuxedo waypoint, putting in 13,000 there, and going VNAV. But that is not implemented in flight sim. So what I had to do then was I had to descend using VS, vertical speed, and then I had to compute manually, like altitude, current altitude, target altitude, times 3, divide by 1000, things like that. But now you can easily just go VS, adjust your descent, go and pick any value. You'll see the arc start to appear, and then adjust the arc as necessary. So for example, if we want to reach let's say flight level 270 at Kehoe, so we want to climb steeper, right? So we can easily say, okay, then we need to climb faster, so I need to increase my VS. So I increase it, and you can see it, that arc coming closer to Kehoe right there. So that means we will reach flight level 270 at Kehoe now. Now I'll have to push for more torque here so we don't risk stalling. But yeah, that is perfect. Don't have to do everything so manual anymore. And that is such a boon. Aside from that, we also have other stuff. Let's go back to the flight level 310 here. There you go. There's a north up above 1,000 nautical miles. I'm not sure what that does, but I would imagine it switches to north up at a certain point. I guess if your flight plan is more than 1,000 nautical miles, then it would you choose north up. I'm not sure what it's used for, but you guys let me know. For me, I always like track up. But then again, I don't do long haul flights, so maybe I can't relate. There's also a track vector, which basically shows your plane, shows the trajectory your plane is going. And you can increase that 2 minutes, make that longer. Just shows which direction your plane is headed. So if you're like heading mode, for example, let's go to heading mode here. And if I move my heading to the left, you'll see that track vector change. So if you want to manually trace the magenta line, for example, there is a bug with the flight sim, with the avionics, and it doesn't want to follow for some reason, which never happens. That never happens in Flight Sim 2020, right? So now you have an option of following the magenta line manually using that track vector, even if FMS isn't working properly. So you can just stick to heading mode and follow that manually. I like that. I really like that. Okay, there's also the wind vector on there on the upper right. See 64 knots, and now the direction is correct. I remember this was here before in the default, but I think the direction was way off. Like it did not make sense. Now it's facing the right way. So wind is blowing from our backs there, from the west. You can hear from the west. So we have 65 knots of tailwind. That is amazing. Look at this. True airspeed is 175 knots, but we are actually moving along the ground at 239 knots and we're still climbing. Wow, perfect. Okay, we can go full throttle here now. Alright, ITT is coming hot though, so I think I'll push that back a bit. There you go. We are ITT limited. Alright, what else? Fuel range. That is also going to be very helpful, especially for the long flights. So if I zoom out, you see that there's a 35-minute marker there. And I'm not so sure how to read that properly. Let's see, if I choose like fuel range reserve 0 plus 45, if I pick 0, does that change? Yeah, it goes farther. I guess that shows how much you have before you run out of fuel. Oh, ITT, sorry. ITT limited. Alright, so let's pick that again. The default 4500. So that gives you the indication when your plane would run out of fuel. Well, we're not at any risk of that at the moment, but I'm sure we'll get to test that later on. Okay, and then the Boeing Banana. What's a nice name to call it? You guys let me know. The Boeing Banana doesn't sound very professional. Alright, starting to cool down now, starting to pick up speed so I can push forward on the throttle again. And yes, most of the mods of the TBM that I've been using before, the audible alerts for the 1000 to go, the 500 feet above ground, the minimums, they all seem to work fine. The lighting with the panel we don't need anymore because we have the touchscreen control lighting now. And what else? Yeah, the only thing that is conflicting for me at the moment is the touch screen controls mod, so I'll have to disable that. But I think from what I read in the forums, they are working on it. Let's go to nav mode here and see the plane automatically go to the magenta line, so that vector would be consistent. So let's pick that again. Where do you go? Map settings, other, and track vector. Let's put that to 60 seconds so it's not that long. You can even see it bend if you're turning. That's pretty cool. Oh, I like that. noise. So the faster you are, the longer that will get, because you'll get farther in shorter time. Right? I think that's it. Everything else remains the same, but my goodness, this makes this plane even more amazing. So look forward to me flying this more often. I'll go and look for our on-air series. I'll go and look for a TBM. I'll get type rated there, and we will fly that instead of the Bonanza. The Bonanza is a great plane, but my goodness, these new toys, especially that arc for the altitude selected thing, that is going to be a boon for me. Looking forward to flying with this. Alright, well, thanks for watching. A bit shorter video today. Hopefully that helped. Hopefully that got you excited as well. I know there are a lot of TBM fans out there. Can't wait to fly this plane again. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a nice day and clumsy flying. Catch you soon. Bye-bye.